One of the big challenges in the multi-cloud environment is security and governance. And these are two components, because on the one hand, the security side is having the policies and setting those policies. The governance side is making sure those policies stay in force or being notified if they are if there's drift from those policies. So we tackled this challenge, how to do it in a multi-cloud environment, with subject matter expert Jyoti Sharma from VMware in this episode number 3 of the Multi-Cloud Expedition. So here's the segment. Go ahead and have a look. Tell us a little bit about the problems that you see customers have when it comes to the multi-cloud environment and tackling this governance topic.
Sure. So I want to take a step back and really talk about the situation in which the central teams, such as operations and security, often find themselves. On one hand, there's adoption of public cloud, and they're able to quickly deploy software services. But these central teams are tasked with ensuring that the costs are regulated, the configurations are secure, and the performance is optimized. And that's in the landscape of vast number of accounts and services that are spread across multi-cloud environments. They're also supporting multiple developer teams, which are continuously building applications. So it's very easy to make mistakes. To secure configurations and ensure compliance across the entire application lifecycle, they need to have both a preventative and a detective approach. But I want to talk a little bit more about the preventative approach, which is basically that they configure these policies onto the accounts before handing them to the developers when they'll start building applications. But for most teams, these processes are really manual. And it involves use of several tools that don't talk to each other, and that makes standardization very difficult for these teams. So eventually, they end up with inconsistently applied policies across the accounts.
So let's back up a little bit, and from the audience standpoint, right? Governance and security policies have been around for a long time. Obviously, they're implemented and well understood when it comes to, I'd say, more on-premises type of environments. Now, when customers, start to think about the multi-cloud, right? And where do they kind of begin to run into that problem? Where have you seen scenarios? I think one we were talking about before was mergers and acquisitions, right? The idea that, okay, we just acquired this company, and it turns out that now, how do we know if this policy or this type of policy is in effect or not in effect? Maybe you could talk a little bit more about that.
Sure. So there are different scenarios. They could be, you could have inherited some accounts or infrastructure because of a merger or acquisition. It is also possible that when you start migrating your workloads to the cloud, you typically start with just a few accounts, like for example, 5 accounts or 10 accounts, and when you start out and start building applications, and some of these manual processes and the DIY tools actually work at that level. But as you start, adding more services, you start adding more accounts, and your cloud footprint starts to grow, you're not able to consistently apply these policies and scale those governance standards going forward. So so from a long-term perspective, these processes don't work.
So I think that word scale is what's super important here, right? It's that, okay, to have the company really, advance its capabilities and do it at scale, then it needs a way to apply all these things consistently. And something even as simple as just the password policy, right? If there's a requirement in order to make it, a certain number of days before it expires, or the password length. And I think that's going to be the first thing we're going to show is how we can help apply a policy to an environment that's been standardized. So let's go ahead and roll that first demo.
Here I am in the Guardrails user interface built on top of VMware ARIA Hub. You can see that I have one account connected already into my Guardrails environment. This is a AWS account. And I'm going to start by applying a new policy template. And so what I can do is I can click this apply guardrails button here, and this is going to take me to the wizard to apply a new template. Very first off, I can choose which account to apply to. I can choose my AWS account or an Azure subscription. In this case, I'm going to choose my AWS account, and I'll click next. And from here, I can choose what template to actually apply. I can look at the library templates that VMware ARIA Guardrails provides to me out of the box. We have different types of templates for configuration policies, security policies, cost policies, so on and so forth. And today I'm going to use this AWS IAM password policy. This ensures that all IAM users have a strong password. And what this means, as we look into the template, we can see this means that we can require symbols in the passwords, a minimum password length, numbers, uppercase and lowercase characters, as well as other configurations that IAM allows us to do with passwords, such as allowing users to change their password, expiring passwords, setting a maximum age for a password, preventing reuse of passwords, as well as setting hard expiries. And so in the template, I can see what guardrails will do. It will essentially create this IAM policy using the parameters that I have defined. And if I scroll down, I can see that guardrails is going to ensure that that policy is always present in the product, in my AWS account. And so I can click yes and import that into my curated templates. I can change the name of the template if I want to something more customizable. So for example, strong password policy, and I can change the description if I want as well. I'm going to choose a project to import that into and click finish. And so now I see it in my curated templates here. Again, from here I can see the template, what it actually looks like as code. I can close that out, can click it and go to next. And now I'm going to actually define what my policy should look like. So all my input parameters are here that are going to define this policy. So first off, I'm going to give this a name that we're going to apply it as. So this again will be strong password policy. I have my different parameters to say what I want to require as part of my passwords. So for example, perhaps I don't want to require numbers. I can set a password length as a maximum and a minimum as well. So let's say I don't want a password to be more than 30 characters long, but I want it to be more than 20. I will leave all the other default parameters for now, but you can always change them. You can click validate and then click next. And then I'm going to click monitor this guardrail, which essentially is going to tell guardrails to ensure that this password policy is always in effect in my account. And if it's not, show me a drift alert. I can apply this policy, apply this guardrail, and it's going to do that.